We in Scotland have to conform to what is called a National Performance Framework. And that is really useful. It's a concept that began in the Commonwealth of Virginia in the United States and has been adopted by other countries like New Zealand. And basically anything we do has to be aligned to government priorities. And we have discovered in the process that to make industrial heritage popular and to attract funding for every type of project, we have to demonstrate it delivers benefits for the general good, for the population. And this is a really useful thing because, having thought about it, it really does. We can demonstrate the value of industrial heritage and we can change perceptions. As we have seen, particularly in Norway, many people instantly think old industrial structures and buildings are bad. And what we have to do is to demonstrate that they are assets that can be used for the benefit of everybody. And for us, we have what we call national outcomes, which are defined priorities. And so many of them, such as teaching, education, young people skills, placemaking, giving communities a sense of place and sustainability, combating climate change, so many of them connect back to what we do with our industrial heritage and our communities. So it's a very useful thing. And in the process of trying to form ideas and convince politicians that they should support industrial heritage, I attempted to produce what I called an industrial heritage strategy for Scotland. And the idea was that it would align with the government's priorities. And as I said, it was not a difficult thing to do. So we produced a sort of executive summary. I can supply you with this if you wish. It's not published yet, but we identified issues like regeneration. Now, this has come up in this conference many times already, but the idea that you can use your industrial heritage to encourage a rebirth of your communities and the lives of working people. We have done to great success in some parts of Scotland, more successful in some than others, but this is Greenock, the birthplace of James Watt, who died 200 years ago. And it was almost lost. But now the sugar industry, for example, provides the backdrop for a major regeneration project. We lost some major areas, such as in Paisley in the bottom right, with our textile mills, these were listed, protected, and we lost them. But we managed to save other amazing buildings. Because if we do not save these buildings, if we surrender to the power of the new developers who have many fiscal advantages in tax regimes, if we do that, everywhere becomes the same. We are taken over by bland, homogeneous, modern, often very poor qualities of building. Now, this is a rude sequence of brilliant cartoons from our satirical magazine, Private Eye, making fun of Tesco. Because what happens, Tesco is the biggest supermarket in the UK, and what happens is they just destroy everything and create a Tesco. And so and actually Tesco have done some quite good adaptive reuse of industrial buildings, so this is not fair. But at the same time, it makes a really powerful point. We do not need to remove everything. And in the context of climate change mitigation, we need to start using the energy that has already been invested in existing buildings and give them the second life we have been talking about, instead of using energy to destroy them and using more energy to build new things. So that's rant, anger number one. But we also need to deal with issues such as disappearing skills, because industrial heritage is perhaps the most intense example of a strong relationship between tangible heritage, stuff, and intangible heritage. And if you have machines, textile looms, if you have boilers, engines, and you don't have anybody that knows how they work and what they did, then their value is diminished. And at the same time, if you do not have these machines, then the intangible heritage is also much reduced. So the skills are really important. Now, one of the things, living in Scotland right now is an interesting moment, given the appalling behaviour of our politicians in London. So our government, our Scottish government, is very excited about maintaining a sense of national identity. So you will see Scotland being promoted all the time across the world. So this is why if you pass through Edinburgh Airport and you have the opportunity as an excited tourist who is interested in Scotland to buy a souvenir of Scotland, you can buy this fantastic Scottish bus in a tartan box saying historical Scotland on it and sights of Scotland. You then look at the bus. Can anybody recognise what it is? This is about the most famous bus there is in the world. This is a London Routemaster, designed in London, is built in London for Londoners. And all they've done is put it in a box, a Scottish tartan box, and put Scotland on it. This is fake history. This is lazy history. But what I would argue is that industrial heritage is in a great position to reverse this process, to get to the real history of people, the history of our material existence. So this has to go. I complain every time I go through the airport, and it doesn't make much difference. And what it also says is, don't believe anything you read on the side of buses. And for those of you who don't know, this was the famous Boris Johnson. If you leave the European Union, you will get £350 million a week back in savings, which was a total lie and was proven to be a total lie at the time. So, yeah, don't believe anything you read on the side of buses. On the other hand, should you be passing through a British airport or a Scottish airport and you see these, you can with confidence say, these are Scottish, because all red telephone boxes were actually made in Scotland. So you can stand outside the London Parliament and say, and look at them all, they're one of 3 different makers from Scotland. But you can also take pictures of people taking pictures of phone boxes with their mobile phones and know that the device with which they are taking their picture is the death of the telephone box. Only a few thousand or 100 will survive. They are going because of mobile phones. But they are Scottish, so we are happy. So I thought I'd just now move on to the Forth Bridge, and we are using the Forth Bridge as a champion for industrial heritage. There is much more industrial heritage in Scotland and in the UK, but it is our champion, our talisman, and therefore World Heritage was very important for us. Now, in thinking about the Forth Bridge, we considered its iconic power and the extent to which it is embedded in our cultural consciousness. And one way to do that is to look at where it appears, not next to the Forth Bridge. So, for example, in advertising, this is Scotland's other national drink. Whisky is the first national drink, but this is the other national drink. This will dissolve your teeth faster than Coca-Cola. But it also dissolves metal, and so this is a very famous example of advertising that uses or perhaps abuses the Forth Bridge. But there's much more than this, and we have been studying it. We use this in our promotion of its international strength. For example, body art. I'm thinking of proposing to the Tiki board that we start a thematic section on body art in industrial heritage. But I should tell you that the most popular bridge in terms of tattoos is you probably guessed it, is the Brooklyn Bridge, followed by the Golden Gate. And I was almost disciplined because of my abuse of internet access at work because of searching for naked bodies. But apart from body art, we have crazy golf, we have chocolate, lock companies, whiskey. We have the Scottish Seafood Festival. How about that? That's one of the best. Laundry vans, dump trucks, coffee. My favourite, perhaps, is the hearing aid shop in Edinburgh, using the Forth Bridge as a hearing aid symbol. Oops. I love this one. This is a cinema in Glasgow, and it's gone. But how about that? And the bridge was effectively built in Glasgow or by Glaswegians, people from Glasgow. So this has disappeared, but I really like this one. This is disturbing. If you can't see it, they're calling themselves the Forth Bridge, which is quite funny. This is a swim every New Year for masochists swimming in the sea off Scotland. So there you are. Politicians everywhere in Scotland, they always use the Forth Bridge. And my favourite example is an attack on Donald Trump. We build bridges, not walls. And it's interesting to note that when Donald Trump arrives in Scotland, people fly the Mexican flag everywhere as an act of solidarity. Resisting is existing. Remember that from the inaugural ceremony. So good stuff. So it's a very powerful symbol of Scotland, but it's a very powerful symbol of industrial Scotland, and we plan to exploit it to the full. And we have the political support to do that. This is our Cabinet Secretary for Culture and External Affairs, Fiona Hislop, and this is the day when we completed our nomination dossier and sent it to Paris. It was December, but it was, for us, it was like summer, so that was fantastic. And a couple of years later, in Bonn, we managed to achieve World Heritage status. So for those of you who are involved in World Heritage status, it's like climbing and hill walking. You think you have achieved your goal, you have reached the top, and then you realize the journey down the other side is far worse than the journey to the top. And you pull all sorts of muscles in your legs you did not know you had, and your knees collapse, because this is when the work really begins. This is when you start to have to try to use your asset to work for you and to work for everybody. And the way you do that is use the management plan that you hated having to create in the first place, because the management plan makes you pull together everybody that has an interest in your bridge, everybody that can make the World Heritage work, everybody that can maintain it and conserve it. So we have a group of people together from all the stakeholders, communities as well, to work together. We conduct publicity. This was an April Fool. You have April Fools in Asturias? April Fool. So on the first, no, Margaret is shaking her head. So on the 1st of April, people in the UK and other countries, Poisson d'Avril in France, you play jokes on the public, and you create news stories that when you think they are so stupid they could not possibly be true, but you dress them up so they can be true. So we created one where we were going to build a Forth Bridge, which was based on real plans in case the bridge was bombed in the war. But the management plan is the key to our way forward. It has lists of actions, lists of benefits and targets, and unfortunately, we are supposed to renew our management plan by the end of this December, and we haven't done it yet, so that's my fault. In the management plan, for us and for many people, we have been using the work of this man, James Rebanks. I show this photograph because we took him to the top of the bridge and he got pneumonia and ended up in hospital for 2 weeks. But before that, he wrote this amazing document on extracting the value from World Heritage. So if you are considering a World Heritage nomination, you look at this because it identifies why. Because many people and politicians do not understand why World Heritage is a good idea. They just want it. And you really need to know why. And the management plan articulates why and what you're going to do. So very important. For us, the iconic value of the bridge is represented in money. But the big problem for us is that We throw heritage at our money, but we do not throw money at our heritage. So it appears on many banknotes, including the bottom two, which exist now, but we do not have enough money, even less money than Norway. But one of the things we did manage to do was to attract money to do 3D exploitation, 3D work, to exploit the bridge more effectively. So we gathered together a team from my organisation, Historic Scotland, and the Glasgow School of Art, who do visualisation, and we embarked upon the biggest project we had ever done, 2.5 kilometres of bridge. We had been fortunate in that we had tried our technology out in the Meiji Industrial Heritage Sites. Also, you see them mentioned upstairs in tracks. But what is not on tracks is the big, enormous, giant Scottish crane. We did that using this technology, developed systems for working at extreme height and in dangerous places. And we took over the railway at night for 3 Saturday nights. It was like a cathedral at night. It's just the most amazing structure. And we talk about geometries a lot in this conference. Everywhere you look, the geometry of this bridge is different. And we created an enormous digital model with over 1,400 separate scans, all registered together to produce an enormous, the biggest ever model, billions of points in this crude point cloud. It is the most amazing structure, and I would quite like to sell this point cloud images as art for a tourism initiative, because they are quite beautiful. We also then deployed school children in the county of Fife, the home of golf, if you play golf, and Dundee, particularly schools in Dundee. And the Dundee Council has a digital heritage or digital officer who specializes in teaching computer sciences. So we use the kids to develop resources to put the fourth bridge into schools, because ministers said, you can have the money, but you've got to make it work for the national performance framework, so you've got to get what you do into every school. So the idea was to pollute children with industry in the classroom and promote STEM subjects, what we call STEM. I don't know if you have STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths. Get them young. And it worked because they were fantastic. And we introduced these 3 modules, one of which was more social and incorporated digitized conventional archive, and then we used the bridge to generate computer games to allow children to learn engineering skills and to learn programming skills. And as a result of that, using Tinkercad, various other packages, we were able to produce these games that absorb the children. And we put them onto the Scottish Government's Education Ministry's system. And if any of you are teachers, you know you are so busy. It's really tough being a teacher, especially now. So you make it easy for the teachers to use. You help them, you don't give them another burden. So that's what we did, and so they have this resource, and it's now in every school. And we also created, from the point cloud, a rendered digital model, much smaller, much more portable. So now people can experience the bridge in 3D. You can get vertigo away from the bridge. And if you put the Vive headsets on, people scream because of the vertigo, and it's really quite vivid. So I have a film, which if we have a time at the end, if I have not talked too much, then we can just watch a couple of minutes of the film. This is extracts from the film. And the big thing about this bridge is that most children grow up thinking that the trains go over the top of the 3 towers. And then they discover, when they go over the bridge, it goes through the middle, and they are so disappointed. Now, you can go over the top of the bridge. You can go anywhere in the bridge. And the educational power of that is fantastic. So, again, we are using our industrial heritage to promote the industrial heritage more widely, the fourth bridge. So, we launched it. with our Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Swinney, and Mr. Swinney was taken through how all the technology works. Being an older person like me, he has difficulty understanding technical things, but these children were absolutely fantastic, and they understood immediately. This is a child on the left, immersed in the Vive headset, and it was a huge success. So, and we are using the same technology in all forms of heritage, particularly the Roman frontiers. So that was fantastic. But the really big thing was that none of this would be possible without everybody working together. We had the Institution of Civil Engineers, the local people, the Briggers, and the Briggers are brilliant because they talk about how we used 12-year-old children to build the fourth bridge. They weren't allowed to send them down the mines by then, so we sent them up a bridge to work with white-hot rivets, 12 and 13 years old. Some of them died. This is in the 1880s. So the local councils, notice Fife Council uses the bridge in its logo, which is quite good. So all these people we used. So the next strategy was to use our digital resources to help the development of tourism. So the first thing to say about the fourth bridge is that it's got 2 railway stations, one at each end, which is good. You have to walk a bit to get down to the bottom, but that's good. But if you look to the right here, you can see the tower of Edinburgh Airport. So if you ever fly into Edinburgh Airport, you can see the bridge from the airport. So it's accessible for tourism, which is a big thing. But there's 2 other bridges next to it. The Forth Road Bridge, built in 1964, was the biggest suspension bridge outside North America and was also built by William Arrol, the company that built the Forth Bridge. But this was overused because nobody anticipated the amount of traffic there was going to be on the roads, so it's got a little bit tired. So they built a new bridge, the Queensferry Crossing, next to it, which has just opened. So we have 3 bridges from 3 separate consecutive centuries. The tragedy of the new bridge is they did not accept my suggestion of calling it the third Forth Bridge. They called it the Queensferry Crossing instead, which is very boring. But never mind, and it's a fantastic, magnificent, enormous structure. So we have these 3 bridges, and we've launched a tourism strategy saying the Forth Bridge is making a journey a destination. The idea is to stop these tourists traveling at 120 kilometers per hour north to the north of Scotland and saying, hey, wait a moment, we have these engineering icons from 3 centuries. And the idea is that we've developed a brand, a combination of the 3 bridges in the brand, the Forth Bridges brand. So, and the purpose then is to develop it as a visitor destination, to make people feel welcome, and to really enjoy the heritage, and to use the bridge as a marketing tool. So once again, we have industrial heritage as a driver for economic prosperity. And all this has been made possible because we have the partnership. Partnership is the key, as we all know. And just as a map, not a big enough map, but the Forth Bridge is just north of Edinburgh. If you land in the airport, you will land right next to the world's first major petroleum industry. Some big mining spall heaps, but the bridge is just to the north of there. And so the idea is that we celebrate, and it's a great place. If you like pyrotechnics, it's a great place to have fireworks and to have illuminations. So now that this is starting, Network Rail, the owners of the bridge, you should know, by the way, that Network Rail is now national again. There was in the Thatcher period, catastrophic privatization of our railways. The railways companies are still private, but the network was so badly maintained, it had to be brought back into state control. So we, the people, own the Forth Bridge. And Network Rail is planning to open a visitor centre at each end that gives you access to the bridge. You cannot go on the bridge now because it is still working as a railway bridge with 200 trains a day. It's great. It's a World Heritage Site that's doing what it was built for. And that purpose, that function, is the reason it is maintained to a very high quality. So fantastic. So the idea is at the south end, you have a Sydney Harbour bridge walk type experience. Anybody done Sydney Harbour Bridge? So you walk up in a harness to the top. If you pay a large sum of money, of course. And at the north end, there is access for everybody. We're going to build they're going to build some elevators, glass elevators that take you up to the top. You can see the bottom right there. The idea is this is reversible. This can be put back to the way it was. So it doesn't cause permanent damage, and it does not damage the outstanding universal value of the structure on which the World Heritage status is based. And the idea is that anybody with mobility issues, anybody can get to the top and down if you do not wish to do the bridge walk and have vertigo. So that's the plan. The north side is many years away, but the south side the planning application is now in. So within 2 years, we hope to have you personally on the top of the bridge. So for a small fee. So that's the plan. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about what the Forth Bridge represents more widely, and in particular, the people that built it. Those of you that know me, I always carry lots of money. And this man is William Arrell, the Glasgow engineer, who was responsible for building it and innovating structural engineering technologies to permit the use of the new material, mild steel. This wasn't just mild steel, this was not Bessemer steel, which was problematic in terms of quality. This was Siemens Martin mild steel produced in open hearth furnaces. It was new. He worked out ways of using it. And we have celebrated him with the first polymer banknote in the UK, a Scottish banknote. Those of you that know UK will know that Scottish money is worth considerably more than English money, even more so now. So we have celebrated the bridge and we celebrated William Arrell. But William Arrell is an example of an engineer who did a lot more than the bridge. So, at the time he was building the Forth Bridge, he was building Tower Bridge in London. So Tower Bridge is, in fact, Scottish. Actually, so is Pontcyssyllta Aqueduct in North Wales. That was Thomas Telford, a Scottish engineer, but never mind. The Tay Bridge, which was the collapse of the Tay Bridge, resulted in the new design of the Forth Bridge by the English engineers Baker and Fowler. He rebuilt the Tay Bridge at the same time as he was building the Forth Bridge. So if you look at this stationery for the company, this letterhead, he has all three bridges on his letterhead. And that is incredible for one company to be doing. But the company also built other things that you might recognize. So has anybody been to Bankside, Tate Modern in London? The power station on the left, that's also Scottish. And if you look at the steel and you look at the cranes on the top, it's Scottish. The boilers came from Babcock and Wilcox of Renfrew near Glasgow, not Bilbao in this case. Battersea Power Station, Pink Floyd fans, Battersea Power Station, now the subject of adaptive reuse. That's also William Arrell. If you go to New Zealand, the crane in Auckland Harbour, that was Arrell. And the big crane in the bottom right, that was going to Japan for the Meiji industrial sites. So everywhere in the world, Arrell built stuff. But I want to make a general point about the bridge represents something else. It represents railway heritage. Now, railway heritage, if you're struggling to get people interested in industrial heritage, railway heritage is the way in. And I noticed here, yesterday, we visited the fantastic museum here in SITIOS. And yes, SITIOS? Yeah, okay. I'm practicing. And this is the way in, because in the UK and in Japan and everywhere, children are indoctrinated into railways at a young age. We have this special agent called Thomas. Thomas, the tank agent, the tank engine, not tank agent. There is even a theme world for Thomas next to Mount Fuji. And so everybody who sees a steam locomotive, they stop, they get their camera, they fight for position to take a photograph. This heritage is the way in. And I say to people, because of Thomas, To use the words of the CIA, there are sleepers in our community. Now, obviously, sleepers are what the track sits on, but sleepers are also people. And these are special agents that come to life and can sell industrial heritage to a much wider audience. And the fourth bridge is the sort of large end of that. And just as an example, I don't know about you, but sometimes railway heritage people are regarded as a slightly strange. In America, they call them foamers, which is very rude. And in Germany, Bufferkissers. In Britain, just train spotters, and we make films about them. But if you go to meet them, they are incredible people, often quite old now. But decades ago, they were taking photographs like this. They have collections of images. They were taking pictures of the train. But sometimes by accident, they took pictures of super coal mines like this. So speak to them, because and digitize them speaking, but digitize their collections, because their collections are a window into our industrial past that often we do not realize exists. This man, his collections are incredible. This is a very famous coal mine that was a complete disaster, but was a piece of fantastic architecture by Egon Riss, who was a Jewish emigre from Austria, who came to work in Scotland. But there are links to all sorts of other heritage through the railways. We've already seen, was it yesterday, the Harry Potter Viaduct? Yes. This is the Harry Potter Viaduct being built, the world's biggest mass concrete structure at the time in 1901. And the company that built this, Robert McAlpine, went on to build these, condeeps, which are very, very important in Norway, because Norway was the big producer of condeeps, and completely rescued the British economy through the oil and gas industry. And these are now a possible World Heritage candidate if we can get our act together. And they sit there, the Brent crude, they sit out in the North Sea. They are industrial heritage, but very modern industrial heritage with live communities promoting them. Oops. Perhaps we had a wonderful film yesterday about the Castile Canal, but canals for us are an engine of regeneration. They were bought by the railways and killed deliberately by the railway companies, but now, thanks to the most incredible volunteer movement in the history of the UK, they were brought back to life. And now, since 2000, we have an artery, a blood vessel of regeneration represented by our canals, creating a regeneration opportunity across central Scotland, including the amazing Kelpie sculpture on the right near Falkirk. So this is industrial heritage working for us. Our infrastructure, which we've heard a lot about already in this conference. And the next big asset that we have is going international. I noticed ERI is important in Asturias. ERI is important in Silesia. It's a fantastic international network. It's growing in Portugal, I think, and in Norway. It's really fantastic. So we are, again, trying to enhance tourism and awareness of our industrial heritage by plugging it in to the European network. And we are signing an agreement, an agreement with ERI in order to strengthen our networks. So we're building up steam to take advantage of our world heritage, but to use our world heritage to help industrial heritage, from the very smallest water mill through to the very largest industrial installation. That's me. Thank you very much. Oh, okay.